It's our favourite vegetable, sweet and juicy. And it must be tasty all year round. It should also be sustainable. So, where can I find one?
Leave, now.
It's not going to be easy. I'm Judith, and I'm looking for a good tomato. Tomatoes have few calories, but many key nutrients, such as vitamin C, potassium, and fibre. They also contain secondary plant substances, colours, fragrances, and flavours. Carotenoids, the yellow-red plant pigments in tomatoes, for example, are said to protect against cardiovascular disease and strengthen the immune system. But where do the tomatoes in Germany come from? My search takes me to southern Europe. Spain is the continent's second largest producer of tomatoes. In the Almería region of Andalusia, there are greenhouses as far as the eye can see. This is it, the orchard of Europe, under sheets of plastic. It's really shocking how much plastic is used here. Almería is all concrete and plastic. Much of it looks run down and abandoned. It's doubtful whether anything's still growing in there. There are tarpaulins everywhere. Yes, everything's dead. But of course the plastic's still here. If we take a look around, we find traces of the agriculture industry everywhere. The white nets, canisters, tubes, tarpaulins, stuff. Right in the middle, there's a nature reserve that's supposed to be home to rare species of birds. As the drone footage shows, it's surrounded by greenhouses. I struggled to find access. It certainly doesn't look like a nature reserve. At some point, I noticed that we're being watched by people in a car. We note from the stickers that it's a regional government vehicle. I drive on. I can see the government car following us in the rearview mirror. There's a parking spot up ahead. Let's see if they stop too. They've passed us. Are we unwelcome here? That's a feeling that we'll come back to later. I ask around 40 businesses in Almería for permission to film, in vain. The Granada region is just a few kilometers away. The landscape is similar. Here, I'm in luck. One farm grants us access. They've nothing to hide, they say. Isabel Ortega works here as a technical manager. Do tomatoes need special care to grow?
Generally speaking, all crops grown under plastic must be treated with care, and that includes tomatoes. You need the right temperature, the right amount of water, and the right time to harvest. It's like this. Crops grow very quickly under plastic, and for that reason, you have to work with precision to produce good quality tomatoes.
The price for that quality is usually paid by the environment. This type of cultivation produces thousands of tons of plastic waste. But the company implements sustainable solutions where possible.
We have an integrated farming system. We use bumblebees for pollination, beneficial insects against pests, and in general, there's been a trend over the last 20 years to do without synthetic pesticides, but that's not always possible.
Exemplary, it seems. But is what I'm seeing here the rule or the exception in the tomato industry? Tomatoes from southern European countries are much cheaper than alternatives from Germany. But the desire for cheap tomatoes still comes at a price. Almería is drowning in plastic, says Diéguez from the environmental organization Ecologistas en Acción. He wants to show me one of the region's many illegal garbage dumps.
There are two main plastic sections here, the roof and the floor. The roofs are worth something. Farmers can get cash for recycling them. Not much, but still. The ground sheets, though, aren't worth anything. In fact, farmers have to pay to get rid of them. And if farmers don't want to pay, what do they do?
You can find the answer on the side of the road. The Ecologistas en Acción claim to have identified almost 400 illegal garbage dumps. And that number is growing.
This garbage dump has been here for many years. We've reported it, but nobody's cleaning it up. The main problem is the sun. It makes the plastic brittle until it gets smaller and smaller and harder to collect.
De recoger luego, de limpiar. Es que esto, claro, mira. Todo microplástico, claro.
Look at this. It's all microplastic. These are the ground sheets. They change them after every harvest. They treat the soil with pesticides, then cover it with the ground sheets so that the poison stays in the soil and doesn't evaporate. This contaminates the plastic and means they don't recycle well.
That's terrible.
It's doubly terrible because of the plastic and the pesticides.
The regional administration has given up, says Marcos.
This is the true price of growing vegetables. If you want cheap tomatoes, then someone else pays for it. The workers, the environment, the health of the consumers, through the pesticides you ingest.
The thin, contaminated ground sheets are often simply left lying around, says the environmentalist. The more robust roof tarpaulins, on the other hand, often end up at recycling centres because there's a small cash incentive to take them there. But would it even be possible to live without tomatoes? Looking at images like these, it's easy to forget the negatives. In Daniela's kitchen, tomatoes are always in season, on pizza, for example. How do we make the sauce?
For the pizza, we'll take a passata, a tomato sauce that's almost liquid with no bits in it. And we'll put a little on now.
And that, surprise, comes out of a bottle. And made even tastier with olive oil and herbs. Yummy.
So now we've got a base with the passata, the strained tomatoes. We put two other types of tomato on top, the pomodoro giallo or yellow tomato and the red tomatoes, and no cheese on this pizza.
No cheese?
No, because this is a classic Neapolitan pizza, the simplest pizza. It really focuses on the tomato. The tomato puree is the centerpiece.
So can tomatoes on to no-go in Italian cuisine?
No, generally not. But it does, of course, depend on the kind of canned tomatoes, where they come from, how they were produced, the quality of the tomato. That's something to watch out for. Not every canned tomato is a good canned tomato.
So how do I find all that out? The market is huge. Tomatoes come chopped, preserved, or as a paste in a tube. And all sold alla Bella Italia. All this, even though the world's largest tomato producer at around 68 million tonnes per year is China, followed by India and Turkey. China's also one of the big players on the canned and tomato paste market. However, the largest exporter of processed tomatoes is Italy. But the Italians purchased almost 85,000 tonnes of processed tomatoes from China in 2023. The reason? Less and less tomatoes are being grown in Italy. Domestic tomato farmers are no longer able to meet demand. But in spite of that, most of these products look Italian, among them Oro di Parma. I'm surprised to find this company is based in southern Germany. It's here that I meet Sabrina Lappersteiner from the company Hengstenberg, a name more usually associated with pickles and sauerkraut.
Oro di Parma has been one of our brands for decades, and our tomatoes are stored here in these warehouses.
Okay, they're not produced here.
Our tomatoes are produced in Italy, in the Parma region.
Here in the lab, random samples are taken from new deliveries for analysis and tasting.
We check for any bits of skin, seeds, or unripe parts. This sample looks pretty good. So everyone take a little bite.
First, we see what the sample smells like.
Fruity.
Fruity, intense, strong. There's a typical sweetness with a light acidity.
I'm told that the canned tomatoes in the sample are grown outdoors in Italy. They're harvested from June to September. Almost 6 kilometres from the factory, there's a small goods station. Trains loaded with tomato paste, passata and the like arrive here. And a new delivery's coming in.
There they are.
Wow, how many cans are there?
The train brings around 250,000 cans every day.
250.000, ja.
10 truckloads fit into one train, which saves CO2. In terms of carbon footprint, rail transport is way better than road haulage. The goods then go direct to retail or into temporary storage. But at 250,000 cans per day, I'm wondering whether they're all genuine Italian tomatoes. You hear that a lot of canned tomatoes come from China. Can you guarantee that's not the case here?
We can guarantee that because we've been working with our manufacturers and producers in Italy for decades, and they've been working with their farmers for generations. We conduct checks on site and receive documents of origin and protocols for our tomatoes.
Something that, as a consumer, I can't verify myself. But it's always worth looking at the label. If a supplier explicitly states that the processed tomatoes come from Italy, then in accordance with EU food law, they really must be genuine Italian tomatoes. But if the label says made in Italy or produced in Italy, this only means that the tomatoes were processed there. Incidentally, there's no general obligation to indicate the origin of processed products. However, if the packaging looks Italian, the origin of the main ingredient must be stated, at the very least. If it says non-EU, it could well contain Chinese tomatoes. And that could mean long transportation routes, higher pesticide volumes, and poor environmental and working conditions. My search for the good tomato is an arduous one. After all, vegetable farming in southern Europe isn't free of criticism. In Almería, I've already seen what our year-round appetite for tomatoes means for the environment. But here, too, working conditions are often problematic. Marcos from the Ecologistas and Acción told us that in San Isidro, a village not far from Almería, there's a street where all the day labourers wait to be picked up. We're going there to take a look. There's the odd person standing around, mostly men. Then I noticed 2 women at a traffic island. The camera will stay inside the car for now.
Hola, buenas.
I meet Nadia from Morocco, who tells me her story. Are you working here?
Yes, we work with tomatoes.
And what's the work like?
It's a lot of work. It's hard, for not much money. We don't have any papers.
No papeles.
What about a contract?
No contracts.
Nadia's story is one shared by many here. Most labourers come from North Africa. Nadia studied mathematics, but couldn't find a job.
I was a great student. And now life is like this. Now I rent and live in a garage with my son. Who wants that? There's nothing there. No shower, kitchen, rooms.
Nadia's words shock me. I feel helpless. And she's not an isolated case. A group of men is standing on a street that leads directly to the greenhouses. I decide to wait and see what happens. Soon enough, minibuses arrive and pick up the labourers. The men who get in are lucky. Work means money, food. I talk to the others. They come from Mali, Ghana, Senegal, Ivory Coast. They don't have papers or rights. They're asking around, looking for money and work. I'm really sorry, I don't have a job for you. Cheap labour that isn't meant to be seen. The migrants live close to the greenhouses in makeshift settlements. I meet Miguel Carmona from the Rural Workers Union in Almería, an organisation defending the rights of agricultural labourers.
¿Qué pasa?
Hey, what's up?
Estamos aquí con las patatas.
Look what I brought you. I'm here to bring you some potatoes. These are my friends from Ghana. In my view, they're the population most represented here.
Más tradicional.
Personally, I don't think they should be here.
Esa es mi opinión personal.
They come here to die.
Vienen aquí para morir y no ser nadie.
Because life's so hard.
Yes.
And why do they come here?
They come for economic reasons. Their own economies are disappearing. We all know what's happening in sub-Saharan Africa. In Senegal, for example, fish is one of the country's main products. But the EU fleet also fishes off the coast there, bringing the local fishing industry to a standstill. That's why they leave.
Nearly 1,000 people live here. There's no electricity, running water or sanitary facilities across the entire settlement. This worker shares the house with another person. Some live as large family groups in cramped conditions. The worker was very friendly and showed us his home. It's one of the better houses because it's built of stone, but we're also seeing shelters made of plastic. It's a very surreal place. There's a strong smell, it's dark and cold, it's humid in here, and yes, it's quite shocking.
Ganz schön erschreckend.
Miguel shows me the much less robust homes constructed from pallets and greenhouse tarpaulins. People often tap power lines, but that can be dangerous. Fires regularly break out, with serious consequences.
If there's ever a fire in here, the authorities clear and cover the areas to make them uninhabitable so people won't come back. They want them to disperse. They don't want the people here to be seen.
That's crazy.
Yes, crazy.
Many people live in constant fear of eviction. In 2023, an illegal settlement with over 500 residents was razed to the ground. Although some public money has been used to build apartments, these are still unfinished, says Miguel.
In places like these, there are people without papers. There's an economic incentive to keep it that way.
Because they're cheaper.
They can pay them less. But it's not just the workers who are illegal. The greenhouses are too. They just build them without permits. Neither the construction nor the irrigation is allowed. There's no water here, and nobody cares either. It's all illegal. The greenhouses, the workers, the wages, everything. What more can I say? They're stealing from the state. They don't pay any taxes.
A system under which those here suffer. The people living here are friendly. They talk about their problems, families, and homelands. But one resident follows us, asking for money. When we don't give him any, he gets angry.
No one can film here. Listen to what I'm saying. Leave. Now.
To prevent the situation from getting out of hand, we do precisely that. Inhumane living conditions, environmental pollution, social exploitation. Despite several requests from us, the Spanish authorities refuse to comment. Almería is a surreal place. Here, plastic dominates the landscape and people suffer so that tomatoes can be produced cheaply. So what now? Tomatoes imported from Spain, difficult situation. Canned tomatoes, scrutinise the label. What's the situation in other EU countries? For example, many tomatoes in Germany come from the Netherlands, with their seemingly infinite monocultures. It's a highly efficient sector. Most Dutch tomatoes wind up as exports to Germany. In 2023, just under 330,000 tonnes. Transportation distances are short, but their cultivation consumes huge amounts of energy, especially in the winter months. Most of the greenhouses are still heated with fossil fuels, such as natural gas. As a result, the Dutch greenhouse tomato has a carbon footprint around 10 times larger than that of a tomato from the south, despite the long transportation distances. Here, there's only enough natural light and warmth from July to September. During these months, tomatoes from Central Europe are more climate-friendly than those from Spain, for example. An alternative could be cleaner energy sources for greenhouses, right? In southern Germany, Wolfgang Steiner thinks he's found a solution: geothermal energy.
Im Tagesschnitt wollen wir zwischen 18 und 21
We want an average daytime temperature of between 18 and 21 degrees. When the nights are cool, we require a huge amount of energy. You could say that a comparable greenhouse would need around 1,000 liters of heating oil per hour in the cold season. But our big advantage is that we heat our greenhouses with geothermal energy. No fossil fuels are used.
The greenhouse is warmed by heat from the Earth's interior. But even this method is not without controversy. It's been linked to induced seismicity. Steiner uses a closed irrigation system for cultivation, and the plants are grown in substrate to increase yields.
I'm convinced that protected cultivation will be one of the pillars ensuring or guaranteeing food security here, even when we're affected by climate change and natural disasters.
Is the cheap imported tomato a threat?
Well, of course. That's always an issue when tomatoes are available in Germany for less than half the price of locally grown ones. But in my view, consumers aren't being made fully aware of the totally different social and environmental standards in place here.
But heating with deep geothermal energy isn't possible everywhere. Only a few sites have been developed for such projects in Germany. Tomato plants must be regularly tied up and the side shoots trimmed. These steps are necessary for good plant growth. So how can I plant good tomatoes at home? Do you have any tips?
Eine gute Sorte.
Choose a good variety. Make sure that it's blight resistant. And above all, don't overwater them.
Nicht zu viel Wasser.
The tomato, sweet and juicy, but with a bitter-tasting backstory. The truly sustainable tomato still remains elusive. For me, the only true solution is the one I've got right here.